Hey guys, and welcome to the Week 1 update for Monster Madness 2026. We have the entire left side of the bracket figured out. We have the at least first round figured out. It's crazy to already have all these monsters moved on. We have 8 that have already moved on, and we have 8 that have already been eliminated. But let's break this down and go matchup by matchup. Basically, we had Kong versus Mundo Prime, which Kong ended up taking 80% of the vote and dominated there and won in the poll, which I wasn't too surprised. I did think Kong would win in the vote, but he does move on. And then we had Karathan versus Kraken, which I thought is an amazing matchup, and I did think this was going to be closer. I didn't know how Karathan would be in these votes just because we haven't seen him in the tournament yet, but took 88% of the vote and definitely dominated and ended up winning in the vote. And then we had Slattern versus Gypsy Avenger. Gypsy Avenger making it to the Final Four last year, but does get eliminated in this first round. Slattern had 90% of the vote, to be expected. I did think Slattern would have the edge, but definitely dominated and ends up moving on. And then in the next matchup, we had Mothra versus Titan X, which was the first upset of the tournament. We had Mothra at 20%, while Titan X was at 80%. And this is just a very surprising. It's still, with the 20% votes, there's still a good chance for an upset. It's a 1 out of 5 chance, but I was expecting Titan X to lead in this vote and was leading pretty heavily, but Mothra is able to pull the upset, and we already have an upset in the first 4 episodes, so definitely goes to show you that this could be a crazy bracket. In the next matchup, we had Godzilla -1 versus Shimo, in which Shimo dominated, to be expected. Shimo's pretty much dominated every single matchup other than the championship last year. So Shimo advances, and then in the next matchup, we had Kronos versus Scar King. Both of these monsters looking for their first win in Monster Madness, and looks like Kronos is the one to do it. Was leading in this poll 83%, so it was 80-20, and Scar King does go down. Still does not have a win in this bracket, and Kronos moves on. And in the next matchup, we have Warbat versus Rodan, in which Rodan dominated, had over 90% of the vote, and so easily won that one. No upset for Warbat this time, and Warbat does unfortunately go down in the first round, but that lets Rodan advance. And then in the last matchup, we had Amholik versus Surtur, and Surtur was definitely dominating in this matchup. Like I said in the video, this is just a terrible stylistic matchup for Amholik in this battle, and so Surtur moves on. And now let's look ahead to the matchups we have. We have in the top, we have Kong versus Karathan in Hong Kong, which will be an interesting matchup for sure. I think Kong will have a tough one there. I still don't know how the vote will pan out, but I think Karathan's got to be the favorite. In the battleship location, we have Slattern versus Mothra, which is a very interesting matchup. It could go either way. I think Slattern's got to be favored in that, but it's a very interesting matchup that we will obviously break down in that video. And we have, in the next matchup, we have Shimo versus Kronos, which is an epic matchup. In the Hollow Earth location, I think Shimo will dominate in that vote most likely. But in my opinion, that's an epic matchup. That's very similar to the Surtur versus Shimo fight. So I think that should be close. Will be epic no matter what. But I think Shimo will probably dominate. And then we have in Skull Island, Rodan versus Surtur, which is a very cool matchup. You've got 2 fire-type monsters. Surtur is obviously going to be the favorite in that. But it's still a very cool stylistic matchup with both of them being kind of fire monsters. So I think that's awesome no matter what. But we have the entire left side of the bracket figured out, and now we move on to the right side of the bracket to figure out that entire side. Have some absolutely crazy matchups next week, and by the end of next week, we will have the entire first round figured out. We will go from 32 monsters to 16. So make sure you let me know down below which matchup were you surprised about. Were you surprised by any of the matchups? And stay tuned for more episodes coming Monday, where we will continue the madness with the right side of the bracket. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.